Love you, Bri. Yeah, I mean, cheers. Cheers. Roll the credits.
I don't see it.
Doctored in ketchup.
We have to care about the agents.
Screaming at a drag show, so
Put it right on.
right. I'm like, okay.
The pizza boxes.
Right.
So we
What's up? Welcome back. On the mic here, I am with Luis Rodriguez, who we're coming up on 1 year here with DJ&Lindsey, but the monumental milestone here is you were the first podcast guest ever before we even knew that the podcast was going to be a podcast. It was just like an agent shout out. Let's hear from the agent.
Yeah, you lied to me the first time around.
Yeah, I definitely was not overly truthful
Yeah.
because I didn't even know what it was either. I was like, I want to get to know the agents. I want people to get to know the agents, know the story.
Yeah.
But I was like, I guess I'm just gonna have to sit down with everybody. So I was like using it as like the same way like a reporter just like puts like a recorder on the table and then you just like talk it out.
Yeah.
We just happen to be set up.
Yeah,
So
you were like, I'm just gonna record this so that I don't have to write everything down and make it a lot easier. I'm like, all right, cool.
yeah, and it honestly it looked so good. Here we go. It looked so good that I was like, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Right? And we had the microphones. It sounded great. It looked great. At that time, we were only even shooting with one camera. So now, we've upgraded, new space, new studio, new lights, new this, new that. So it looks a little different since the last time you've been here.
It does. I like it, though. I like the setup.
Right? It's a new vibe. We're always trying to move around stuff. But, so we're closing on your first year here.
Yep.
What is that looking like as far as homes sold total in that first year?
Right now we are at 32 total pending closed.
Right.
I got another listing going live on Friday. Hopefully we can sell that as well this weekend.
All right.
My full year would be the 26th, I think. So potentially could be 33. We're at 32 right now for like 12 million, I think.
All right. So pretty terrible first year in real estate.
Yeah.
Obviously, sweated it out, grinded it out.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth mentioning, obviously, so we have our kind of, our agents, then we have our listing specialists. It obviously wasn't long till you got onto that listing team, but just the metric of needing 15 closed sales, basically, to be eligible for our listing opportunities, that's what an agent would complete in maybe a sweet year, if not 2 years' time.
Yep.
You had it in, honestly, it was less than 60 days. Because when did we talk? You were actually 90 days.
I think it was 90, yeah.
Yeah, so you were around there. We can cut back to, at some point, probably the old podcast to see what his stats were then. And obviously on the other side of that wall was the TCs at that point too.
Yeah.
So you were like fresh in it, figuring it out, but we're not stopping. What do you think is the number one thing you've learned just in 1 year of real estate? If you could just pull one thing out of the hat, do you think that you'd just be like
Consistency?
Yeah,
I think you really have to be consistent with what you're doing, what your game plan is. Very specific. You have to have those goals and intentions. It's been a very challenging year for everybody, I think, just with the market the way that it is, offers being presented the way that they are. So I think if you're consistently making the phone calls, having the conversations, getting out there, taking the appointments, writing offers, speaking to agents, you know how the market's working. And you know how to help your clients successfully get to the closing table, which is ultimately what they want, is to buy a home or sell their home.
right. Do you think just the amount of deals that you've done just in this year alone, from when you first started to now, you could look at a house, hear a conversation, or even see a situation and immediately kind of like pick up of like, I know how this is going to go?
Yeah, I mean, you know, to get to, 30 transactions, you have to definitely try a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say we've definitely written a lot of offers, seen a lot of homes, talked with a lot of clients to see what it takes to get that job done. So I think having that experience definitely allows me to walk into a house and go, this is what it's going to take to get it done. After speaking with the agent and the sellers, this is what they're looking for. Let's make it happen.
Right. I mean, I even noticed that myself. Like, I can hear kind of a situation or see a situation, even hear a story that maybe an agent is telling to leadership, or even, again, it's funny. I'm calling you a veteran agent when you literally were coming up on a year, but I know you, and I just know the deals you've done and just how well you are just running your own business, that I call you a veteran. But I'm like, I can hear people running stuff by you, whether it's Colin, Josh, any of those guys.
Yep.
I can even hear a situation. I'm like, that sounds like it's going to be a nightmare. And then usually, like I said, they're turning to you, they're turning to Theo, they're turning to these people, who've done so many transactions. They're like, what are you thinking about that? I should be like, honestly, I would either tell them, you're the expert, this, you just did this on 3 houses ago. Like, why are you trying to let this person drive you?
Right.
Do you find you're always trying to prove yourself to the new customer? The new customers coming in here, like, knowing exactly what they want. This is the way I see it. I try to equate it to, like, if you go into a doctor's office, you tell the doctor what's wrong with you. You don't tell the doctor how you want to be treated.
Right.
Right? And
Right.
I think a lot of people in real estate do that, and the doctors in this case are afraid to tell the people otherwise. Do you find that kind of is a thing?
I mean, when I first started, I definitely felt like writing that prescription was difficult to do so. But I think now, with having the experience, I'm able to have that conversation with those individuals and say, listen, this is the deal. This is what it's going to take. I understand what you want, but this is what it's going to take to make it happen. And you have to trust me through this process. Like you said, in that same scenario, I am the doctor and I'm writing the prescription. You came to me for a reason. So let's get this done in a successful manner. Yeah,
I mean, I do see, even just in situations I've heard or going into some sellers' homes, I mean, it's like, I get it. It's your house, right? You have memories there. You have all these things. At the end of the day, like, when you bought this house, even if it is 6 months ago, it's not the same market, industry, customer as it was when you bought it. And half the time, a lot of these homes, right, were purchased in 2011, 2012, or even just right after the crash. These people bought at the bottom. You could pretty much walk around with a handful of 50s and buy anybody's house because they were looking to get out, or a bank was looking to get rid of it. And now they're trying to say, this is where we had my daughter's first birthday party, so, like, her photos on the wall, we can't move. I'm like, yeah, but the people from Milwaukee don't want to see your daughter on the wall. Right? Or, like, hey, ma'am, that's backsplash tile holding up your foundation. That's not. Yeah. That was wild.
Yeah.
Quick loop in there. We had peeked at an investment property that we were both just, like, curious about.
Yep.
It wasn't even more like the actual, like, purchasing. It was just like, we're looking at these photos and we're like, this is interesting. So the story of the seller was interesting too, which we won't get into. And we go there and it was like just
nightmare,
mayhem of, like, insurance problem, this, and it was it was interesting. Luckily, like, we were able to just, like, walk away. We had no involvement in it, but
30% of the house was held up by backsplash tile.
Backsplash tile between the bridge beams and the actual foundation block pillars was backsplash tile was the leveling material.
Right.
So needless to say, it was going to have to be a cash offer, either a complete teardown or you have to have a plan with it. But we were looking at it just because we were so curious. I mean, we were, like, looking at he's like, yo, check this house out. You're not going to believe this. Yeah. And then when we actually went there, we were even more dumbfounded than when we were looking at the photos.
Yeah, I don't know how that went through, but that was fantastic. Round of applause for the individual who
sold
handled
it.
That. Yeah.
But even still,
Absolutely.
The crazy part is that house sold
for more.
For
10% more than it was listed.
Which is the point we're trying to get people to understand, is that houses are selling at astronomical prices, but that doesn't also mean you can just stick the sign in your yard, say, I want $1 million for my $500,000 home. Someone's going to buy it. Like, if it's not priced properly, you're going to look like a fool.
Yep.
And what were we were talking the other day at a happy hour event, and it was 73% of buyers think that they can out negotiate, or their agent can out negotiate a FSBO.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
wild.
Yeah. People think that they can just handle this on their own, and there's so much that comes into it. I mean, I just had a seller the other day. It was so funny. We ran through the entire process of how we were going to sell it, how we were going to market it, what we were going to do for them, and we put a price that we wanted to get. It was lawfully goal, but we thought we could obtain it, and we were able to accomplish it, get multiple offers in 3 days, and it was so funny. We locked the contract up, and then I'm telling them congratulations and everything, and thanks for all the hard work of running out of the house as many times as you had to. And it was so funny. She's like, yeah, you didn't even have to do anything. You just put it on the MLS and it sold. And I'm like, there was so much more that went into that than just doing that.
Ma'am, you're so right. Honestly, most of this transaction was done from sweatpants and slippers.
Yeah, and it's we were able to get people up $15,000, get you the terms that you were looking for, negotiate on your behalf, market the property accordingly so that we had as many showings as we had. I mean, take the right photographs for the property so that it presented well on the MLS and on these third-party sites, do the videos, do everything that we do.
And we've seen that. We were working with a very large iBuyer, and we were listing homes, and a lot of those homes were investment properties, so they didn't need stellar photos. We had shot some of them stellar photos, and we actually did our own kind of internal kind of A/B test. And the homes that we had professionally photographed, even though it was a very much fixer-upper situation, sold for close to 5 to 7% more than the cell phone shots.
Really?
Because of the presentation of the transaction. So someone seeing these photos is looking at these photos, and the first inkling is that I can get a deal on this because corners were cut right off the rip. Same thing with a FSBO. Yep. It's like this person is just doesn't know what they're doing. They're at a complete disadvantage right off the rip. And I think people don't understand that I don't mean to be or sound like a business guru, and I don't claim to be either, but everyone knows the buy low, sell high, right? That's what it is.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do it yourself, you will, without doubt, be selling low. You'll be selling higher than you bought it just because that's just the way the market is right now. But from what you could be receiving, you will be selling low compared to the rest of probably the comps in the area if they're sold on the MLS.
Well, it's just like that house that we were talking about that day. They realized that there were other properties that had sold at that pricing, so that's where they had come up with it. But the problem is they forgot that people are anticipating having to overpay. So when you put that super high price and then they anticipate having to overpay and they're looking at the other comps and what it was listed at, it's like you're setting yourself up for a disaster here. And then once you have a certain amount of days, the product becomes stale, and they don't know that either. They're not paying attention.
So, and then a price reduction, now they're like, okay, they just reduced the price because they couldn't sell it there. That means right off the rip, I'm going to be able to come in under this, and they'll more than likely accept it, not knowing that you guys are trying to shoot for the moon and then edge your way back. Coming from the marketing director of a large real estate company, the listing price of a home in 2022, I'll say this directly to the camera, is nothing more than a marketing price.
Yes, absolutely.
It is nothing more than a marketing price to get people in the door. We just had a situation. We have in the past used an online bidding platform that was awesome. And it was awesome time. I think we're going to do more of them and maybe even throw draft parties in there because it was sick.
Exhilarating.
Yeah, it was sick. This is my first live event that I called.
I was at home. It was so funny because I was watching the chat and it was just blowing up with everybody.
Bananas.
It was going nuts. So then I started watching the live with you, and I'm watching people bid, and I'm like, I'm losing my mind watching this on my phone. I'm like, I can't believe that I'm watching people bid on a house right now, and it's as entertaining as it was.
Yeah,
it was very good. Yeah.
And we had the whole live setup. We had Matt and the whole setup there, right? Yep. So you could see the live bidding happening on the thing. The chat was in there. It was an experience that we're going to keep rolling out. But there was a separate brokerage that was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And one of our agents here brought it to me. He's like, hey, because he thought we were exclusive because we rolled it out here in Florida. And he thought it was exclusive. It was it basically goes against their whole business model. Right. But so he's like, yeah, they have this home. It's listed at $315,000. And I'm like, show me the house because I know what we listed ours at and and then what it sold at, I'm like, nowhere near anything. I mean, literally, we listed it at $599 and it's sold at it sold for $6,969.
which is also very entertaining. I mean, the guy knew he had a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could go to the internet and literally see it happening live. Yeah. Like it was really awesome. But anyway, they listed it at the appropriate price.
Right.
So like they were just kind of using it as like an offer tool because it was listed at $315. It only sold for $325.5.
Yeah.
Which is like just normal.
It's like when you go to buy a new car and you're looking at the specials and everything that they run, and they're like, "Hey, come in, get this Audi. It's $399." And then you get there and they're like, "Yeah, doesn't exist."
Yeah, that's that Audi. It's made of mostly paper mache and it's got no tires.
It has roll-up windows, like all that. And then they're like, "It's actually going to be this price, and it's going to have all of these features as well." And you're like, "All right, that's fine. Like, I understand, but." In order to get you in the door, it had to be a reasonably priced. I think if you're at fair market value for homes, people want to see them. It's when they feel like it's
so like that house. Again, it's not our transaction, and I don't know, I might get fired for this. Who knows? I would have priced that if they wanted $325 or they wanted $315. Like I would have priced it at $299.
Yeah, 100%.
And got a bunch of people in the door, and then let it run. Again, there wasn't really any like craziness to it. It was just like Justin Fleming Island. It was just like a 3-2. Like it was a great house, but like it wasn't anything that like people were gonna like fight crazily over. So I don't even know if I would have picked that house for that opportunity. But I mean, it was also just a brokerage that doesn't have the same marketing arm that we do. So they're already at a disadvantage.
It matters who you work with. Who you work with matters.
Go figure.
Yeah.
No shit.
Sometimes. You know?
Well, so what are you looking forward to? So we're closing on 1 year. What are you kind of looking forward to? Do you kind of have different goals? Have your goals shifted? Obviously, you came in here from the tire industry. Again, sales. Sorry, Matt, I whacked my microphone. You came from sales. What you were selling just changed. But you were like, I'm going to sell 30 homes. Now you like a dog that caught a cat. It's like, okay, now you got it. What are you going to do? Like, how do you proceed?
So I wanted to do something more meaningful within sales, have some sort of a purpose behind it, a reason to wake up in the morning,
right.
Something that can drive you. And I think real estate has offered that. I love being able to work with people and help them through that situation, help them buy their first home. I mean, Matt and I were talking about it yesterday about helping him buy a home, and the process of that, what he has to deal with as renting and the landlords and the BS that they're putting him through. So I like to be able to sit there and like, hey, let's figure out a way to get this done for you, because obviously you're not in the driver's seat right now, and we need to put you there, and we need to set you up for success for the future.
Right. And a lot of people just use the excuse, everything's too hot, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. There's a home that you can afford.
100%.
And I love, it's a huge trending sound right now about you just suck at being poor. Yeah. Because rich people have the luxury of not having to care what something costs or not having to physically do anything. Yeah. But like, if you want nice stuff and you can't afford nice stuff, you're the one that has to make it nice. Right. So at some point, and it goes back to when you trade your time for money, you're doing the same thing. So like my photographer and really good friend JoJo, our photographer rather, her and her boyfriend just bought their first house. Yep. She wanted to redo the kitchen. It came with wood colored, oak colored cabinets. She wanted white cabinets. It was pay, I don't know, $2,800 to do it, or pay $300 and then your time on the weekends to do it, which she did. And she sent me photos last night. It looks awesome.
I saw.
But I mean, that's what it is. It's like putting in so there is a house you can afford. It's just a matter of what you plan to do with it, how long you plan to be in it. Those are things that you talk to a realtor about. And I think people don't understand that. They think it's just like when you walk into a bank and you're just like, I want to open a bank account. And like someone's just going to do it from the bank. Right. Like anybody who's on the other side of the counter versus like, hey, this is what I can afford. This is what my rent looks like. And then you saying, okay, turning to like Wes or somebody from cross country. And you're like, hey, this is what we have to work with. Here's the income status. They've been with us a year. Right. Like how can we get them in a home? That's exactly what happened when Theo had handled that. So that's great to hear that, you and Matt are kind of working together on looking for something. Because we hear it all the time. Like and let's even get into this, and I think this is a good thing too. So you and your girlfriend just bought your first house, or
Buying,
right,
yeah.
closing
Yeah.
at the end of the month.
Yep.
But what was you locked in a 6-month rate, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference from when you had locked it in and just 6 months?
Yeah.
Because this is wild.
So let me start from the
Yeah.
beginning. So we moved here 5 years ago. We wanted to buy. We just kept feeling like the market kept increasing, and we were waiting for things to change. You know,
How'd that work?
it obviously did not work out for me. Man, I would be set right now if I would
Yeah.
have just done what I should have.
Right.
But so once I started here and I started seeing what was happening in the marketplace and actually being involved in real estate and involved with what's going on, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And what am I doing? And who am I to think that I can time the market appropriately? It's not timing the market, it's time in the market. So we really just looked at how much did we spend on rent since we've been here? It was $100,000. And then I'm like, okay, how much do we get to leave with? $1,900. And I'm like, this is awful.
So from a business decision, that would be
I'm like,
bad.
Yeah, this is awful. What are we doing? So we went and, purchased a house in September. We ran the numbers and everything. Everything was fine. We're happy. The rates started to increase. I believe sometime in April, they were like, hey, we're getting close to closing on your home, 60, 90-ish days, something like that. This is what it looks like now that the rates have changed. And it went up somewhere, let's call it a little over $500
A month
a month.
for monthly payment.
Monthly payment for the exact same house.
Same spot, same house, same doorknobs,
Yeah.
same garage door.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I agreed to pay this price, and this is what my monthly's going to be, and this is the home I'm getting. And 7 months later, it's like, well, it's $500 more a month now for exactly what you've already agreed to, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a second, that's terrible. We locked in a rate, thankfully, because now we're at 4%, but now the rates, I think yesterday just went over 6, which is nuts. And where would our price be now?
Right. But again, and it's perspective-wise, is still historically low.
100%.
But what people it's crazy how immediate we are that, like, as soon as it went to something, everyone's hands are up and like, I'm entitled to it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
I didn't even think about that as like coming in like, okay, this is going to be 6 months, 7 months from now, rates could change, this, that, and the third. I'm like, yeah, it'll slowly change, but it won't be that dramatic. I would consider, $500, it's like 20% of our monthly payment. That's a pretty big deal. And to continue to wait, what happens? Because the prices haven't gone down.
Right.
And now it costs more monthly. What is waiting going to get you?
Yeah, there's almost no situation. Again, I'm not claiming to be a financial guru by any means, but just from what I'm hearing, there's almost no situation where, like, all of a sudden your house, let's just call it, which we don't even, let's go $500,000 home, will just, in the next 3 months, be a $300,000 home.
Right.
So in this area, probably anywhere, but solely based on the fact that someone will pay $400, $550, whatever
Right.
it is for that house because of the lack of homes that are even available.
Right.
So even if everybody turned around tomorrow and put their home in the market, and all of a sudden we just had 3 million homes in the market,
Right.
you'd have more to choose from. But I don't even think it would devalue the home that much, just because unless your home and 7 other houses on the same exact street were also up for sale, that would be like the only wavering thing that I could see happening. Like, okay, we got our hands full here because, the Smiths are going to sell their house for $10,000 less, $20,000 less. But they're still not going to wait. Like, at some point, they're just going to be like, okay, well, at what point are you giving your house away?
Too much, right? Well,
Right.
and the other thing is people get fixated on that price, right? But where they're forgetting is you have mortgage pay down, you have tax advantage on the interest of these payments, and like I had said, we paid $100,000 to get $1,950 back in our security deposit. What if we would have gotten $20,000 back? You know, that's
Right.
that's 10xing our expected return.
Right.
Plus, we would have had the advantage of writing off the interest. So, I mean, there's so many ways to look at it other than just price. There's a lot of value that you have in home ownership, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people hear the media, read one thing, and are like, okay, I know exactly, which goes back to what we're talking about 73% of buyers think that their agent or themselves can out-negotiate a FSBO. And I think people just are going to make up their mind about what they want to know and how involved they are.
Right.
I mean, how many times have you gone into a situation where you're like, wow, I really hope that I'm the dumbest person on this conversation? Like, no, everyone wants to seem like they're the person who knows what they're talking about.
Right.
So it's like, why not just shove that to somebody who knows what they're talking about, and you don't have to deal with that? I mean, we talked about that from where you came from, of just like hey guys, here are the 4 people in charge. If I have to come back here,
Yeah.
we got problems.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, why don't people think that when it comes to real estate? I don't understand that in the slightest.
I think what it is today everything is so instant and direct. You know, your cell phone, everybody's, you know, this guy's got his cell phone in his hand right now because he's working on top of already doing some
Constantly.
other project, doing 2 things at once. But that's what everybody expects. They know your cell phone's in your hand. They send you a text message. They want a response in 5 to 10 minutes. If they reach out on the internet, they want a response in 5 to 10 minutes. They don't want to wait till tomorrow. They don't want answers next week. They want it right now, instantly. They want to hop on YouTube and educate themselves and learn as much as they can. The hard part, and this is what I always try and, you know, tell people, is like, hey, I'm going to, you know, put this out there, but I believe you're most likely an expert in your field.
Right.
It's what you do every day. Would you think it makes sense for me to come into your job and just start dictating how things are going to happen and what
For sure.
we're going to do?
We had an agent who do that, so we're running this, best in the business competition going on right now. And even though this agent didn't win her battle, I stay true literally through the whole competition. It's one of the best things we heard so far. Is that, would you? And I mean, I kind of use the same analogy. It's like, would you just use your cousin? Like, let's say you need a complete hip replacement, but your cousin is just a general surgeon that removes gallbladders.
Yeah.
Would you just use them because they're your cousin? Or would you use a knee or hip, whatever, you know, the operation is specialist, because there is one.
Right.
And then when you go into them, you're not just like, all right, hand me this. Well, like, no,
Yeah.
you just the doctor's just doing their thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do people always have to stick their hands in it? We see it more than anybody.
Right.
Everybody's a marketing guru now. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Dude,
Social
everybody.
media experts.
Oh, man, dude. Are you kidding me? Everybody is. And half the time, it's great, too. Half the time we should do this. Or I saw so-and-so doing this. So, like, a great thing is, like, and I love this agent. This is not I'm not even going to mention their name. Came to me saying that somebody had a moving truck with their face on it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I love that idea. The amount of logistics, insurance, purchase to just have us own something, a truck,
Right.
then loan it out to somebody. I'm like, then it becomes, what are we? Then, like,
Are we a moving
why are?
company?
It's not just that. Like, I get it's a great little niche perk, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But then we start diverting time, energy, resources to what we're not,
Right.
and then we lose track of what we are. And it's like, let's focus on this. And that's why everybody's like, I saw a TikTok where you can put balsamic vinegar in a glass and mix it with any,
And it's healthy Coke.
and it's healthy Coke. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, it's just, it's sparkly balsamic vinegar. Like, yes, it looks like Coke. Be a great prop. If, like, somebody's like a diabetic and, like, can't have Coke and you're in a movie, I'm like, lights out. Looks exactly like Coke. Everybody who tastes it is just like, this tastes like bubbly salad. Like,
Yeah,
right? It's just
it
not.
doesn't.
Right? So we live in this world of, like, make up what you want to happen,
Yeah.
call it manifesting, and
Yeah.
but for the most part, like, you wind up the fool.
Yeah, balsamic and club soda. I did see that. That's
Yeah.
chaos.
But that's where we are.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we are in 2020.
Yeah, it's
That's
like,
what's trending currently. and people are doing it. If it's, I would
If
love
you
to
see it on
speak to.
TikTok, it's real.
Right, but that is true. That is true.
100%.
I would love to speak to the woman who, again, you can always find the original sound. I don't know if that's where it started, but I would love to talk to that woman, which I can 110% guarantee you she's not listening. But if anyone knows her, I would love to find out if she did this as a troll, because then it's an excellent troll.
Oh, phenomenal.
But people are like mixing it and trying to get their kids to drink, and they're like, no, this is like, and like these kids are like, this is disgusting. I'm like,
Right.
so at what point are you just lying to your own children? It goes back to like, I don't know if this happened to you guys. Now we're just rambling. This happened to you guys in like middle school and kindergarten. Like you'd always be hungry in school, right? You'd have lunch and that would basically be it.
Yeah.
And your teacher's eating whatever the hell they keep in their desk, and they're always chewing on something. It's like, oh, what are you chewing on? It's like, oh, it's my tongue. And then for the longest time, you're like, oh, my teacher's chewing on their tongue. And then all of it's, 5-10 years later, you're like, this
Lied to me.
yeah, lied to me.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. It's like, at what point do then you lose your own children's trust because you're trying to feed them balsamic Coke, right? And then it dials back to business. It's like, at what point do you stop lying to your realtor, pretending you're the expert, because the 9 things you just said all were discounted, proven wrong, and here we are. It's like, okay, now this person, I need you to fight for me now.
Yeah. Yeah, when things go wrong, it's so funny how quickly the scenario changes of they're no longer the expert and what do they do. And
Right.
it's like, I could have told you this from the beginning,
Right.
which is what I have been saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's unfortunate. You have to sometimes guide people to that mistake,
Right.
so they can see, wow, that is the value that they hold. He literally said this was going to happen, and verbatim it happened.
Which sucks, because
It does.
it's every single time you're doing that. Has that happened way too many times for you, or you're kind of?
I think in the beginning it was hard to relay the message properly to people, to explain.
You figured it out now.
Yeah.
32 transactions later, yeah,
Yeah.
you better, or else you're
You're going to be in trouble.
going to look like
Yeah.
this.
Coming. But so I think in the beginning it was hard to explain it, and now I figured out, okay, this is what's going to make sense for them, and this is how they can understand it, and this is a scenario that I can work out with them. And I think now they see it and they get it, whereas previously it was like, okay, well, show me that's the case. Okay, well, watch us put an offer in at list price and not get accepted on your dream home, and then review the message from the listing agent that they got 15 offers for X amount of dollars over, and this is what I told you it's going to take, and look at it happen. Now, the next time around, when we go to the next house and we say we want to offer and this is our dream house, let's listen to what I have to say. Let's do it the way I know we do it. If we sold 3,000 homes and you didn't sell a home last year, trust me through this process,
Right.
because we've experienced 3,000 of these, and to get to 3,000 we had to do 12,000,
Right.
15,000. So we know what it's going to take.
Yeah, and I think you are probably one of the ones who have figured that out just early on. I mean, again, it's just sometimes people learn differently. I think you probably could have learned over 3, 4, 5, right? Where it might take somebody all 32 to figure it out. Like, hey, how can I, just auditing my own business, how can I get better at what I'm doing? Maybe it's not education. It's literally just, how do I relay the message that what I'm saying is gold and the most trustworthy thing they're going to hear? Because we live in a day and age, the internet, you can find almost any group that's going to have the same opinion as you, which is why Facebook, I love social media. I mean, there's like a whole QAnon. It's like right?
Yeah.
Like, so,
I love that.
but I'm saying
Fine
you can
opinion.
find people that will
Believe
believe
anything.
whatever. So it's not difficult to find people who you align with. So yeah, it's not going to be difficult to find somebody who might cut
Believe
their
in
commission,
liberties.
tell you like, oh, we'll get this house easily, no problem. And then all of a sudden 5 houses later, you still don't have a house. It's like, at what point are you like calling you and you're like, hey, so here we are. I mean, somebody just DM'd our Google business the other day, was just talking about how they were looking for a realtor because they've lost on like 7 other homes that they've been trying to buy.
Yep.
And they're just looking for a realtor, but like didn't even have a house in mind. They were just like, I need a realtor. Our realtor is not doing it.
I have
And
3 of those right now.
that's crazy.
Legitimately. I have I was listing a property. The guy he circumvented his agent, which he shouldn't have done, but he called up, hey, why didn't my offer get accepted? And I had no idea at the time that he was the actual buyer. He approached it as though he was the agent through this transaction. And I'm like, hey, man, it just didn't work out that way. I would suggest if you want to help your client in the future, X, Y, and Z to get you there. And I was just trying to relay the information because I know we have a lot of training, a lot of experience, and I know not everybody has that same opportunity. 80% of agents fail their first year or quit or don't make any money. So.
And it's also important to note, like, what if this was this dude's brother, father, right? Yeah. Like, immediately you come out the gate, you start bad-mouthing this dude. Immediately you become the bad guy, even though they came to you for, right? So, yeah, you always have to.
So for me, it was like, it wasn't even like a teaching moment. It was just like, hey, this is what I would suggest. This is what came in, and this is why you weren't as competitive as the other ones. And when we got done the conversation, he's like, hey, so I'm firing my agent now. Would you take me on? And I was like, wait, you're not the agent? What are you talking about? And he's like, no, I didn't write that. She did, and that's what I was told, and the X, Y, and Z. We went to see one house. I told him, this is what you need to do. We won that house. It was on market for like 6 or 7 hours. We won that house. Took it off market. The lady was like, I can't believe we're even taking this off the market. Took it off market. It made sense for the sellers. It made sense for him. It appraised for over what we offered. And that was like $20K over list. He was happy as could be. They were happy as could be. Super simple transaction. We put an offer on one house. I think he said he did 5 or 6 with her, and it didn't work out. I have another guy right now. He called me. He said after a year of looking, the agent wasn't able to get them a home, wasn't able to convince the daughter, please help my daughter find a home.
And we're talking about what your payment did in increase in payment. So you can imagine a year of not finding a home or being able to get a home. I'm like, that's wild. All because it's like, well, it's not my control, it's the market. And here you go, 6 days on market, you get this guy a house. Like,
yep. I have a listing coming up in like a month or two. Guy used a large team around here. They have a big social media presence. He just moved here from out of state, went with them because of that social media presence, had a really rough experience. Unfortunately, has to move back to the state that he came from. And in my listing presentation, going over the house, it had nothing to do with selling the home for him. It was all about who I was and who the brokerage is, because the most important thing for him was working with the right people.
Right.
He almost didn't even care about the price. He just wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to be in a situation where he was unhappy, lied to, things didn't go the way that he expected. And it's just like, how upfront, how honest, whether they want to hear these things or don't want to hear these things, can you be? Because we have to be on the same page, and the expectations have to be met. And I like to personally not just meet expectations, but exceed them. And
that's how you put your head to your pillow at night and sleep confidently, because you're like, I didn't just sell this dude snake oil to get this deal.
Right.
And now I'm like, it's just a backpedaling of like, okay, how do I recover this? How do I make all these false promises rather, that I told this guy. I think that's pretty important. So as we look towards year 2, if we bump the number 32, let's just call it 32.
Yep.
What's year 2's number? We doubling it, or what's realistic for you? You want to do 50? You want to do 7?
I would like to double it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few other things that I would like to add to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's possible. You're constantly rolling with like anywhere from 6 to 8 pending, like at any time.
Yeah. So. New construction has been very good to me.
Half the time, it's a lot of the inventory that even exists. So it's like, that's you going with your buyer's best interests.
Right.
Hey guys, you don't have, which we do it as an objection, is just like, hey guys, you don't have this, you don't have this, you don't have this. Great, this is our option. 100%. So that's just how you service your clients to the best of your ability, which I think is the goal.
It has nothing to do with me getting paid today or in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. It's like, hey, this house isn't going to be built for a year. We're going to do all this legwork. And a year from now, I'll worry about my pay, because I'm more worried about getting you a house.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me. It's about finding the right property for you and making it work.
Right,
you
but
know?
that doesn't say that we're just going to cut commission because you don't need to eat. Like
Right.
at some point,
yeah, we still need to eat next year. It's just we can wait till then. It's about keeping the ball pushing.
Well, this is wild. I can't believe we're here coming on a year of you being here, and you were the first podcast guest ever. That's why we got a couple of claws just to celebrate. Dude, you're an actual workhorse. I come to you all the time with questions, concerns, just advice. You've never sneered me wrong. So, yeah, I mean, we appreciate you here. We love you here.
Yeah.
We love to see you here a long time.
Thank you.
At some point,
Appreciate it.
maybe, I don't know, maybe you'll take on a leadership role. I don't know if you want that responsibility, but I could see you definitely being a good candidate for that.
DJ? Is that my camera?
Yeah.
We would take that responsibility on and ensure the success of our younger or not younger, our learning agents.
Right.
The most important thing for me is making sure that people are successful in life and people live happy, enjoyable lives that they want to live.
Right.
And recognizing the potential that people have. I think coming from where I come from and seeing how possible it is to go from, uneducated, minimum wage employee to be able to be successful and be a part of some of the companies that I've been a part of. There's just so much that we don't know that's out there.
Right.
And I love being able to work with people and let them know that it's available, it's out there. It's
bring it
for
to
them.
light.
And, you just have to want it and you have to go chase it.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to ever be handed to you. It's
No, it will never be handed to you. And if it is handed to you, it will be taken away just as quickly as it was given to you.
Hell yeah. Hey, we love you, dude. Appreciate it.
Love you too, man.
Like, subscribe, follow Lewis. 904 Sold by Lewis. Subscribe us everywhere at DJ&Lindsey on YouTube. We're coming out with podcasts every single week. As I always forget, this podcast is sponsored by Audible. Matt will include the link in the description. Audible is a great way to listen to books instead of being able to read them, and especially realtors who are in the car nonstop. It's really dangerous to read and drive, so it's a lot easier to read and drive.
Listen
and drive. Unless you have a Tesla.
Yes.
It's
Which
more
if you
responsible.
sell a lot of real estate, you can go buy a Tesla.
You can go buy a Tesla. But
so do that.
Audible's a great tool for that, to be able to listen to books instead of reading them while you're driving, showing, and closing homes. All right. We'll see you guys. Thanks. Woo. Perfect, though. That was perfect.